Call this meeting to order. If you'd all stand if you're able and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Approval of board minutes. Excuse me.
Going to first.
And I should turn myself on here.
First, if we could swear in the new commissioner.
Absolutely.
Greg Blaine was elected to serve District 5, and we welcome him. It's good to have a full house again. And at this time, Judge Anderson is here, and if we could have the oath of office.
Come on down. Make sure they all get a chance to watch this.
Absolutely.
You know this by heart. Well, within reason I changed once, so. It's my privilege to induct Commissioner Blaine, and so I will ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Greg Blaine, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota.
I, Greg Blaine,
Solemnly swear.
do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the State of Minnesota,
And that I will willfully and faithfully execute and discharge the duties of
and I will willfully and faithfully execute the duties of County Commissioner
Very good. In Morrison County, Minnesota,
in Morrison County, Minnesota,
according to the law and to the best of my ability and understanding.
according to the law and the best of my ability and understanding.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good have to sign. Mr. Duck, come over here, Will.
You sign there, the rest, and I'll sign here.
And then if we can just take a couple moments and have a couple photographs with the entire board, and I think we can all step down there.
I'm going to take on this, you guys first, and then I'm going to jump in.
Just us four, right? Actually, just us four.
Your Honor, can I get a picture with you?
Sure.
We made it.
Fendi picture?
You just need a deputy there now that you have a judge.
Make sure we don't do anything wrong.
Thank you, Honor.
Congratulations. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, you're the man of the hour.
Oh, we're going to need to step. Wait, a step. Thank you. A step. There we go. 1, 2. I'm going to step in 1, 2.
Why wouldn't you?
We use those every now and then.
Wherever you want to
I want to
stand.
stand right there.
Right next to me. Okay. It's up to you.
And 2 phones. Okay, ready? Smile. One more phone. Smile.
Got it. Michelle, do you want to come closer? You can.
Yes, absolutely.
Come on.
I got it.
Get one for
I
the-
got it.
Cross the white line.
Yeah, cross the white
Yeah, go
line.
ahead. Your hand, you just wait till the end of there. Okay. Thank you.
That's what
Okay. Thank you.
There, Randy, the hard work's over now.
Yep. Photo ops. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we could have a motion to approve the minutes. Got a motion
Second.
and a second? Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda, Tabitha?
Yes, we do. We're going to strike the sheriff's report.
Okay. Sheriff's report is number 10 on our agenda. That will be stricken. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion? Is there a second? Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye. I'm sorry.
Those opposed? That motion will pass. Our next item on the agenda is community development. Good morning, Carol.
Morning, Carol.
Is the mic on?
I don't think so, Carol. There you go.
How about that?
There you go. Thank you.
The reason I'm here today is we have a company over by Swanville. It's in the township. It is SMR Holdings, which is Joe Machi's concrete business over there. And they need to expand their business. And they want to add about a 19,000 square foot building to their facility. The cost is estimated to be over $500,000. They have, I'm trying to find my notes here from last night. They have, I think, they're going to add 3 people, and I think they've got about 15 now, something like that. And so they would like tax increment financing, some assistance there. And they can't do it through the township. So in cases like that, when we can't do it through the township, we do it through the county and the Rural Development Finance Authority Board. We've done it before with Minnesota Wood Products down by Royalton. And so we met with the RDFA last night, and the company was there. They'll be here if we have the public hearing. And the request from the Rural Development Finance Authority is to call for a public hearing. The extract of the minutes would be for June 5th. At your meeting. We would hold it jointly with the Rural Development Finance Authority. And what you're being asked to do today is to call for that public hearing, work with David Drown Associates to develop the TIF plan, and to get the meeting notice published. So that's what the request is today.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there further discussion on calling that meeting?
A question for the camera now. Tax increment finance, what does that mean?
And thank you, Commissioner, because it's right on the tip of my tongue also. What really does that entail?
Okay, what tax increment financing does, just imagine in your mind, and I'm just pulling these numbers because it's simple to understand. You have a parcel of land. Right now, it's generating about $1,000 in taxes. Those taxes go primarily to the city, county, school district, in this case, township. And you come along, you put a $500,000 building on it. And say the property taxes then end up to be $11,000 a year. The first $1,000 stays just like it always was, goes to the same parties. But with the increment, that $10,000, it can go to help pay for certain parts of the development. Anything that is in the ground or directly upon the ground. So footings, foundations, parking lot, concrete floor, those are eligible costs. And then as the business pays upfront, it's all part of his loan. Every year then, when he pays his property taxes, the month after, they get a check back for that $10,000 part of the increment, okay?
As long as he brings the receipts to show that this was stuck into the property.
Yes. Right in the very beginning, they have to show, that the costs were there. Yes.
Oh, didn't know that.
And Mr. Chair, can I ask a question too? And once that amount is paid off, then the increment goes away?
Yes, and so that, it does go away. Typically, I think this one's going to go for 8 or 9 years because it's kind of a manufacturing type of a TIF district. There are different types of districts that can go longer, soils correction district or a housing or, whatever. This is the shortest length. And what happens then, it collapses, and then the tax money just flows back to the original.
If I may, Mr. Chair, they can use that money once it goes back to pay down the loan, I'm assuming, too, could they not? They take out $500,000
Well-
from the bank?
Well, yeah, you see, because if, for example, and you can do it two ways, they can come in, this is one loan, it's all part of the building costs. So, yeah, they could use that to pay that down. Another way to do it sometimes is to have a separate TIF loan set up just for that amount. And the bank will do that, they get credits for that and that from the bank examiners. And therefore, then every year, twice a year, there's a payment made to the bank just for that specific part of the loan.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, those in favor of calling for that meeting in June, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Carol, thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
And then we have extension. Think. Oh, I'm sorry.
Distracted.
I'm sorry.
Proclamation.
We need a proclamation for distracted driving, and I think our distracted driving people just walked in. Sheila, gang, you're up. Emily, sorry. Everyone?
So is this,
Why don't you go up here, that way that everybody can introduce themselves
Sure.
at the podium a little bit.
Yes.
Pointed.
Podium would be great. Everybody can come up. Really? Students can come up, absolutely. Everybody.
This is a good picture.
They don't have a microwave or a microphone.
Great thing for another photograph. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning. I'm Emily Loomis. I'm a community health educator with Morrison County Public Health, and I will let everyone else introduce themselves after I give a little bit of background about Towards Zero Deaths.
Thank you.
So we are here today because Towards Zero Deaths is an initiative that's been going on around Minnesota for 15 years now. Over the past several years, Morrison County has held a Safe Roads grant. It allows us to coordinate a group with our community partners and our law enforcement that focuses on outreach and enforcement of the most common factors of serious injury and death in car crashes. Overall, the number of crashes that result in death and serious injury has declined over the past 15 years in Minnesota. However, the big four factors continue to be an issue. So these factors include impairment, speed, distracted driving, and seatbelt use. The month of April is what we focused on distracted driving. So I do have some recent statistics for our East Central region, which would be our county and then 11 surrounding counties in central Minnesota. In 2017, 5% of fatalities and 14% of the serious injury crashes were distracted driving related. All ages were affected. They were mainly male, and mainly during the work hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., excuse me. And then we do have some Morrison County specific data from 2013 to 2017, so it's a range instead of just last year. But we had 3 fatalities and 8 serious injury crashes that were distracted driving related. There could be other factors involved like unbelted and speed, but they did have distracted driving specifically flagged. They're relatively low numbers, but any number over 0 is too many deaths on our roads. So I would like to introduce Jason Worley with the Sheriff's Office. And then our students here recently participated in an event focusing on safe driving. And I'm going to let them share a little bit about their experience and thoughts, and then they'll just present the proclamation.
Very good. One at a time.
Hello, I'm
Good
Robert
morning.
Jarvis, citizen of Little Falls. Independence, responsibility, freedom, choices, relationships, and changes. As teens, we are juggling a lot of new experiences every day. No matter what we are facing each day, when we get behind the wheel of a car, we need to focus on safe driving. Safe driving means removing distractions, obeying speed laws, wearing our seatbelts, and never driving impaired. We value our independence and value the safety of our friends and family, so we encourage every driver to make the choice to focus on safe driving. Safe driving saves lives. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Hannah Jones. Safe driving saves lives. Most teens know that distracted driving is dangerous, and yet distractions are the cause of most teen crashes. A distraction is anything that takes your focus away from safe driving. Our community cares about the health and safety of our teens. We want to remind all drivers to stay safe, eliminate distractions, obey driving laws, and focus on safe driving.
I'm Jordan Funk. As teens, we learned a lot about safe driving in our driver's education classes. Wear our seatbelts, do not drive distracted, obey driving laws, do not drive impaired, and always focus on safe driving. We want to remind all drivers that safe driving means being safe every time we get in a car. No distractions, no cell phones, no substance use, obey the laws, and always focus on safe driving.
Hi, I'm Sheila Watercott, and I get to advise these awesome students at the high school. And we did have a presentation last Monday at Little Falls High School, and originally we had planned on having the mock car crash event there, and of course Mother Nature had different plans for us. With the help of Brian Mendorf and the Sheriff's Office and many other people, we were able to present a very powerful presentation to 10th, 11th, and 12th graders at Little Falls High School. Our State Highway Patrol Officer Carla Bierce presented a video, very powerful video, and along with our police chief and the fire chief, we were able to talk a lot about the real consequences of driving crashes. Brian Middendorf did a great job of talking the students through what really happens after an accident. And I think Brian can attest to it as well. We had all of those students sitting there on the edge of their seats watching the video, listening intently to the presentation. So even though we weren't able to carry out the full mock car crash, it was a very, very powerful and impactful event. So thank you to the county for supporting stuff like that in our schools. And so I think now we'll let the students present the proclamation, unless you have some questions for them before they go on.
Good. Go ahead.
Should we just move down the line? A proclamation by the Morrison County Safe Roads Coalition in partnership with Morrison County Sheriff's Department and Little Falls Target students. Whereas the safety and security of the citizens of Morrison County and surrounding areas are vitally important, and
whereas a large percentage of our citizens regularly drive or ride in motor vehicles on our roadways, and
whereas distracted driving occurs when drivers divert their attention away from the task of driving and to focus on another activity instead, and
whereas distracted driving can result in injuries and deaths to motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists, and
whereas the health and well-being of our citizens are a direct result of increased awareness about the dangers of distracted driving, and
whereas text messaging, emailing, or accessing the web on a wireless device while driving, including while stopped in traffic, became illegal on Minnesota roads effective August 1st of 2008, and
whereas, according to the Office of Traffic Safety, each year in Minnesota, distracted or inattentive driving is a factor in one of 4 crashes, resulting in at least 70 deaths and 350 serious injuries. And
whereas the Morrison County Safe Roads Coalition supports efforts that help raise awareness of the dangers of distracted driving, particularly amongst teenagers, in order to both reduce the number of distracted driving crashes and to better educate drivers. And
whereas Morrison County law enforcement will be participating in increased enforcement all month to reduce the risk of injury and death caused in traffic crashes related to distracted or inattentive driving. And
whereas distracted driving is a serious, life-threatening practice that is preventable. And
whereas in order to reduce the number of crashes as well as improve driver safety, motorists should dedicate themselves to
adapting and maintaining safe behavior while behind the wheel, and
Whereas one of the most effective means of encouraging safer and smarter behavior by motorists involves convincing drivers of the need to devote their full attention and energy to driving by avoiding distractions such as phone calls, texting, eating, drinking, adjusting vehicle and music controls, and reaching for items, and
Whereas, in order to reduce the number of crashes as well as improve driver safety, Morrison County motorists should dedicate themselves to adopting and maintaining safe behavior while behind the wheel.
now therefore be it resolved that we, the Board of Morrison County Commissioners of the great state of Minnesota, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2018 Distraction-Free Driving Month in Morrison County, and we call this observance to attention of all of our citizens.
Thank you. I'd look for a motion.
Also move, Mr. Chair.
Second?
Motion and second. Gentlemen, discussion?
I'd just like to thank you for bringing this to our attention. I think that distractive driving is probably going to be bigger than alcohol because everybody's got cell phones, and that seems to be the way the world's going. So thank you for bringing it to everybody's attention.
I'd just like to say thank you, too, for going, doing the extra mile and help to protect your peers. It's noble, and thank you.
And myself, too, it's keeping people aware of that distracted driving. I think it's very important because, again, you do see a lot of it on the roads these days.
Commissioner Blaine, I'm not trying to ignore you.
You're not. You're not. No, I think these young citizens are doing outstanding leadership work, and we're grateful they're here.
Thank you. And I'd just like to say I'm honored that I'm able to sit on the Toward Zero Death Committee, and when I'm able to be there. And truly, what it is that you do is second to none. Because of who you are, you get to lead by example because there's others that are looking at you, both younger and older. And trust me, it's true. They are watching you. Thank you very kindly. Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Ladies and gentlemen, if we could have a photograph with you, I'd really appreciate that.
That would work. And I'm wondering if maybe with them,
them
there's
standing.
enough of them that maybe that would work?
Come back over here.
Yeah. The whole group? Anybody else here from that group?
Probably have to squeeze together, maybe, hey?
We can't squeeze much here.
Got this thing. It's going to be perfect.
We'll get her done.
No, we'll get her done.
I got to sign
If it doesn't work, we'll stand up. Does this work or not?
Together?
Okay. Oh, that's fine.
Is it awesome?
All the way to the end and do it my turn.
Just tell me when.
No, stop.
There's the
Right, you're
gas.
part of your, you're on the committee?
I'm not on the committee, but
Well,
you should be in there, Brian. You were part of that program.
Balances out, I need you free. All right, 1, 2, 3. I think Randy almost smiled on that one.
No, he did.
Perfect, thank you very much. Now back to school.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Thank you, Sheila.
Good to see you.
Good luck.
I love it. This is interesting. Until Brian's got something to say, then you got to listen strongly.
Well, they put me in the right spot.
You never gave me the proclamation.
I have the legal counsel.
Oh, okay. Did it already. All right, let's see if I can get it right this time. Our next item is social services. Brad, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I have one item under the social services agenda, and is a contract for a new provider. County Attorney Middendorf did take a look at it and was okay with it. We have located a new provider that can provide some life management skills to our adolescents and young folks, both in foster care and in their own homes. Some of these costs are not always covered by insurance, and so we do use some county dollars to support that effort. We're doing a contract with Oak Ridge Home out of Brainerd for a cost not to exceed $10,000, and they charge $41.20 per hour, and this is generally the going rate. So really, this is just another provider that we can add to the mix to serve some of our kids. As we know, there are staffing issues across the region, and anybody we can get to provide some of these necessary services for our children and families we look to. So that's what I bring forward with you today.
Look for a motion.
Also move, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, discussion? I'll ask. Brad, can you give me in a nutshell what this really means? We're contracting with this organization for what?
So they will do some life management skills such as budgeting, car shopping, teaching them how to balance a checkbook, some of those activities that parents or families may not be able to support. A lot of times it's kids in foster care who we're trying to provide extra services to, kids who might be in long-term foster care. And so it's a variety of populations, but really help supporting them to become independent given the challenges they're experiencing in their life.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you,
I
Brad.
would ask Cindy and Jennifer to come up. We have a public health report now, and that is a report on women, infant, and children's. And Jennifer is the coordinator of that program for Morrison County Public Health. So
excellent.
there is
Ladies, good morning.
There is a PowerPoint in your packet to view that she is going to go through. So I will turn it over to them.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good to be here representing the Morrison County WIC program. I've been doing WIC for about 27 years here in the county. I'm now the coordinator for also Wadena and Todd counties too, as we're a CHB, and our grant comes as one unit for that. The WIC program started in about the 1970s, and it was really developed to decrease the number of babies that are born early and have to be in the hospital for a long time and cost a lot of money to keep those babies alive because they're unhealthy when they're born. And so they developed the WIC program, giving women who are pregnant supplemental foods, nutrition education, referrals to medical and social programs so that they get good education on how to have a healthy pregnancy. And then it kind of morphed into serving the young children, the infants and young children until age 5, and that's what it is right now. Today, our babies, we serve about 50% of our population of the babies that are born. In Morrison County, it's a little bit less than 50%. We'll switch over. In our 3-county area, we serve about 1,684 participants per month. That was the average in 2017. In Morrison County, we served about 771, and we provided a $65 food packet on the average to each individual per month. $9.4 million were spent in the Rick Nolan Congressional District last year in grocery stores. So if we look at the financial impact, it is huge on all those food vouchers going into households, those households going to the grocery store, and then purchasing healthy foods. All the little stores that are around in our small communities, they are WIC approved, and those families can go to those little stores or Walmart and Colburn's here in Morrison County. You can see the retail food economy is affected, jobs in all those stores, as well as jobs in agricultural areas, farmers. Our program is a USDA Department of Ag program, and so we're not a social program, we're actually a nutrition program out of Department of Ag, and so we have a heavy farming background with dairy products, eggs, grains, funding our local farmers. We do have documented health outcomes. Less low birth weight babies is key. Greater consumption of building block nutrients, as you can see there, decreased preschool obesity rates, less household food insecurity. With our referrals, we do refer to other programs you can see there, as well as just general wellness visits. And so it's an all-around health program, and one of our biggest purposes is to make sure that child is healthy all around. And so we do lots of referring to other programs too. Our current goals are reducing anemia, which is low blood iron. We've seen in data how very important having a healthy iron is. And so when we look at our rates of anemia, which I'm going to have you go on to, I think it's the next slide, there we go. In Morrison County, our children, which is the first bar, is at about 5%, where the state's at about 13%. Our late-term pregnancy women, we're at about 20%, and the state is at 32%. And our postpartum or breastfeeding women are at 26%, and the state's 35%. So you can look at those graphs and say, hey, Morrison County's doing pretty good. We have a lower anemic rate, which is good. But I look at that and I was appalled, because I looked at those late-term pregnant women, and from it was a conference that we went to, and they talked about how important iron is for baby brain cell development and brain tissue. And it was like, here's the brain of a baby who has not gotten adequate iron in that pregnancy, and here's the brain of a baby who did get adequate iron. And it actually is less mass, less brain cells, less DNA being developed. And so iron is super important. And yes, we find iron in hamburger, beef, pork, chicken, fish, things like that. And here in Morrison County, we tend to eat more of that. We've got those farmers, those grandpas and uncles who are giving some of our participants some of that free beef care packages, and so we have less than the state average for anemia, as well as I'm continually educating on, are you on a multivitamin that is a good quality multivitamin that has 100% iron? And so we're really working on those components, because we see the importance of brain cell development, which is detrimental. We'll go on to the next one. In conclusion, WIC education is making a difference in the health of local families. Our healthy foods are nutrient building blocks. The protein we provide, the iron, the vitamin A, the vitamin D, our juice has to be 100% vitamin C. All of our foods have scientifically been chosen to provide those building blocks in a growing child's body or a growing fetus's body. WIC impacts local retail economy, and we impact at public health. We are the carrot that draws the young families in. It's usually word of mouth that a young pregnant woman hears about the WIC program. Family or friend is the number one reason. We're drawing those people in through the free food packet, as well as the education and different things that lead to having a healthy pregnancy. So.
Just one addition I'd say to what Jennifer finished up with, and I think it's the carrot, it's the conduit also for those families that might not be developing, so she can make referrals to home visiting programs, some of those other services that can help bridge that gap for children that are struggling with development for whatever the reason might be. And so Jennifer's program is always a great conduit for the home visiting programs that we also operate, so.
Excellent.
I just wanted to add, Jennifer's been doing this a long time, and we're really grateful and lucky to have such an experienced worker in Morrison County, and she's been very valuable in helping design the new WIC area. I'm excited about that. They've made things work in the area they're at now, but I'm very excited to get them in the remodel to get a nice setup to really serve and to do that very seamlessly. And Jennifer's been very good at helping us and determine how that needs to look and everything. So it's good to have that experience on board. We're very lucky.
Gentlemen, questions, concerns, comments?
Question for you, Mr. Chair. This is a great program. I've been an advocate of this for many, many years, but is this income driven at all?
Yeah, so someone who comes in does have to be below our income range, yes.
Because I see it's 50% of the people, and I'm going, wow, that's pretty high that people are using it.
It is pretty high. There are a few ways you can get on WIC without just looking at income loan, which is if the family is on medical assistance or South Country insurance. If they're on a public insurance plan, they automatically qualify for WIC. So we do have some people above our income level, but it's not a lot who are above our income level.
We get a lot of comments, all of us do, of, oh, this person's on this social program or that person's on that social program. I fully support this, and I'll tell you why I fully support it is that baby knows nothing about a social program. That baby knows nothing about a financial checking account, maintaining one, or getting a job. And if we don't maintain a program like this, we're not going to have those babies to do that. But I do have one question. You were appalled, and is that because you think that our iron in our children should still be even lower than it is? I mean,
Yeah,
the iron
yes.
should be
You know,
higher, but the
I'm
graph
more
should be
appalled
lower.
Not at the children, but at the pregnant women and the women going into breastfeeding,
Okay.
that 20% and 26%
Okay.
of them are low in iron,
Okay.
when I think it should be more like 5.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, very good.
Yep.
Excellent. And then the food packet. What kind of packet? Can you explain that?
Sure. So it includes like about 3.5 gallons of milk for a child, or about 5 gallons for a woman, a pound of cheese, a 32-ounce jug of yogurt, a dozen large eggs, 36 ounces or about 2 to 3 boxes of whole grain cereal, 2 whole grain products like wheat bread, tortillas, pasta, brown rice. Juice, two jugs of juice, 100% juice. Fruits and vegetables, women get $11 of produce, children get $8 of produce per month.
And this happens, per month. Thank you.
Once a
Thank
month,
you.
they get a food voucher. Now, I'm going to also tell you that we are going to go EBT, which is paperless. We won't have food vouchers anymore. It'll all be downloaded on an EBT card, just like a little credit card that they slide at a point-of-sale spot, and that will then erase off of their card whatever they bought that day, and then they'll have a new level of foods as they leave. And so it'll be very interesting. It's been a good change that other states have made, but we'll be going EBT throughout this next year, and we probably won't see it until next April.
And the mothers have to purchase food like you just explained.
Right, they cash their voucher just like cashing a check at the
Yep.
store, and they can see exactly what's on that voucher that they can get that day.
Okay.
And they have 30 days to cash their voucher, so they get a monthly set.
Yeah.
I like
Excellent.
the peanut butter one. It's like you see
Absolutely.
so many kids so
Yeah, peanut butter, canned beans, and dry beans. We try to be cultural, and so other people might not prefer peanut butter, but do canned beans or dry beans.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much for everything that you do. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Cindy.
And let's see, Brad, what else do we have
I have
here
a couple
today?
of items under food, beverage, and lodging. The first one is to approve an on-sale and off-sale liquor license and Sunday license for Stonehill Properties. This has been approved by the sheriff and county attorney.
I would
Make a
look for
motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
And then I have a list of seasonals and other establishment changes for approval.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair.
And look for a second.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Our next item should be the sheriff's report,
I'll
which
have this
we are
morning.
not going to have.
Thanks,
Thank
Brad.
you very much, Brad. We will not have a sheriff's report today. Our next item is extension.
I don't know the new
no one-
gentleman, but it doesn't look like he's here
Yeah,
yet.
Randy's not here yet, but that's okay. We can put him down to the end. And our next item from there would be our auditor's report, and I do see our county auditor here today with us. Good morning, Deb.
Should ask those gentlemen what they have. I know what they're here for.
I believe I just have a couple of quick items for you.
Excellent.
We have a request for you to approve the agreement and resolution, pass the resolution. The agreement is between Morrison County and the Recreational Trail Association so that we can pass money through us to the Recreational Trail Association from the DNR for them to be able to groom their trails, maintain the trails, purchase any additional land they may need for those trails. And this is an annual thing. We deal with this every year.
Okay. I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
The only discussion I have now, this is the four-wheeler trails and snowmobile trails, correct?
Yes.
Always got to kind of define that because we also have the bicycle trails.
Yeah.
Yes. a little different, but this is snowmobile and four-wheeler, Sioux Line mostly, and...
Mostly.
Okay.
And the Eastern Morrison Gun Club, or Eastern Morrison County Trail Club, does all the other snowmobile trails and stuff. Their associations aren't authorized, for lack of a better term, to get that money directly, so it passes through the county, so they're eligible that way.
Okay. Look for a motion.
We already
Did that? Okay, sorry. Discussion, further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Okay, one late addition, if you don't mind. Request for on-site gambling at Engler's Corner from Randall VFW Post.
Mr. Chair, Don Noss called yesterday, and Dan, is it Dan or Don? Dan called yesterday and wanted to be able to get that in the event, and I don't have the paper in front of me. It's coming up quickly, and he realized he needed the local board approval on a license also, and so he was hoping we could squeeze that
It's a
in.
one-dayer thing.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Should we pay?
And request you approve warrants.
And let's do the warrants.
So moved.
Got a motion to, I
Pay all the
assume,
bills.
pay all the bills?
Pay all the bills.
Looking for a second?
Roll call.
Second?
Got a second? This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Blaine?
I vote aye.
Commissioner Wilson? Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
And myself is an aye vote. That vote
Thank you.
passes. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Welcome back.
And do we have Public Works is not with us today?
We're running a little ahead of schedule. We didn't know
That's
how this
kinda
was going
strange
to
that
go.
we
It
are.
is strange. One, if you don't mind.
Goodness.
I wanted to just explain. The cash report is in the board packet. Steve Messerschmidt puts that in every month just to give you a snapshot
Absolutely.
of where we're at financially versus like what we collect, what's gone out, things of that nature. We go through quarterly budget reports in more detail of the fund accounting, but this just gives you a snapshot, so you're able to look at, there aren't action items associated with that. Just wanted to give Commissioner Blaine a heads up on what that is.
And I don't know if you're ready or not, but seeing as though we're ahead of schedule, should we jump to the administrator's
Why don't
report?
we? Wonderful
There we
idea,
are.
Mr. Chair. All right.
Thank you.
Let me get organized here. The first action item we have is under our large assembly ordinance. We have an application for Freedom Fest. It's the festival mid-July that has occurred, is it the 5th year? It's got to be about that, for the last 5 years or so. The application has been submitted. The request for camping is there. They outline the events nicely, and the layout of the organization, or the layout of the event is better. Way to phrase that is included in your packet. They do a nice job of laying out the camping also that they're approving. And while it's sideways here, they identify that through the process. So the approval for that is what's being requested. Sheriff Larson has worked with the State Patrol. The event is held on State Highway 25, so works with the State Patrol on that and making sure things work, and is okay with what's presented and good with the plan and approves that security plan.
And that was one of my questions, so thank you for answering
Yes.
that one right off the bat.
Make a motion on that.
Okay, we've got a motion, looking for a
Second.
second. Got a second. Is there further discussion on this one by anyone? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. There will be a Piers Freedom Fest,
6th annual.
6th annual.
Good eye. I thought it was about that.
Good catch.
The second request item is what we talked about last planning session. If you recall, well, what we've talked about a number of times, actually, dealing with out in Morrill and Hillman, there's been some questions on the section corner issue, the property boundaries as a result of some questions with the section corner. I've let you know I'm kind of well past the point of being able to intelligently talk about this issue and talk with constituents, look at what's going on, and really give you advice on what to do moving forward. And so we have engaged Scott Marlin, who's a Stearns County surveyor, and his team to take a look at this and to help advise on what to do moving forward, just because we do not have that expertise. We don't have a professional surveyor on staff in Morrison County. And so I need help. I need help in working with someone who is in this business to be able to advise you on what it is we need to do moving forward, whether it's things like a boundary commission we've talked about, whether we stay out of the issue, whether we move forward with something else. And so the team of Scott Marlin as a surveying team and of David Myers, who's a real estate attorney, has been working with us to help move that issue forward. And so, as discussed last week, it was a plan, or 2 weeks ago, it was a plan to kind of take a look at the data that's been brought in to gather that. I know that is the intent of Scott, is to take a look at everything that's been gathered and incur as little of a cost as possible moving forward with that, to analyze what has occurred with other professionals out there. Brian helped draft a little memo of understanding, something simple to lay out the details. It's a cost, time and material only at this point in time, with whatever is incurred and not to exceed. And I put $15,000 there. I don't know if it will come close to that for sure or not, but if they do spend the time in the field that he thought they might, then it could run that way, so I wanted to have time with that. And I also wanted to allow some time to be able to work with some property owners if they have questions. I'm not able to answer their questions. On staff, we don't have somebody able to really work with property owners who are needing a little bit of understanding on what's happening out here and what the issue is. And so I want to make sure we have that resource for constituents that has the expertise. I do not. And so that's part of this, and I do anticipate more public meetings that will come out of it once we move along in this process throughout the summer and next fall. And so that would also include those types of events or meetings that can occur in that regard. So
Look for a motion.
So move.
Got a motion? Look for a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, and again, we were at this meeting, we kind of beat it to death. Again, I'm still having a hard time going along with this here, because I just don't see, and again, we had a person from St. Cloud, Dave, I forgot his last name, the county, or the one of the land services, or no, where is it?
He's a real estate attorney.
Real estate attorney.
Yeah.
And again, I just have a hard time seeing what Scott's going to do as far as, he's going to go out and talk to people, maybe try to find a third monument, also get these people to agree on something, if at all possible. I just don't see where having him come aboard is to our benefit.
Further discussion.
Mr. Chair, I look at that as we've been working on this project for a long time. There's still dispute out there. According to Dave Myers, there's 2 points. He can support both points, but we can't be using both points. Otherwise, there's a discrepancy in what's going on. So I like to see this, but I also think with Stearns County, number one, they represent counties. There's no private surveyors. Number two is if we go to a commission, he'll help us with that whole process. There's an awful lot of questions out there. There's a lot of people that it affects, and I think we need to do it right. And so I do support this.
Further discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Ms. Gruber, this is a budgeted expense, am I right?
Actually, we've had through the years when we've had private contract expenses, good question, I didn't go over that. We have identified that on an annual basis, I think the last that we did was up to $25,000 using the Recorder Compliance Fund, which is a fund that is built by recording fees when documents are recorded. And those dollars are eligible for expenses related to our overall land records systems and advancing those land records systems. So it wasn't in a budget per se, but it has been identified as a use of funds that are eligible to be used for land records systems. And county surveying expenses at this point in time, given where we're at with that, we're kind of dabbling into finding out what that profession can do for our business, for our existing, departments that are there, how it can help, and frankly, help advise and help us understand questions that come in and being able to answer those. We don't have anybody right now to do that. So I would propose that we use the Recorder Compliance Fund like we have in the past when we've had formal contracts that expand beyond one issue, kind of in general, which is something we're going to talk about and continue to talk about as to whether or not that this arrangement could be expanded for general services. One good example was just the other week. We had a question on a deed and on acreage and discrepancies with that, where, when I sat and measured, when somebody came out to enroll me in a USDA or forestry program, I don't have the 90 acres I thought I had. It's only 80 some. And so there were questions about what surveys needed to be able to modify those documents to be able to do that. We don't have that expertise on file. So just because counties work together often, Scott was able to help walk us through why we need the documentation that we need, what it's used for, what it proves, how it measures out all the math with that. So it's having that expertise as a resource is what it is. But again, this one's dealing with kind of just this issue for now, but we are going to talk further about whether or not we can work with them on an expanded level like we have in the past.
And the fact of life is we do not have a county surveyor on staff. And who can answer those questions if you're not a surveyor?
I can't.
Commissioner Wincher said it. We beat this thing to death. I'm not exactly sure how we bring it to conclusion, to be honest with you, but I know that I'm not a surveyor and I'm not an attorney. And my understanding from listening to the attorney and the surveyor is they got to figure something out here. And I don't know what that is, and I don't know what it's going to look like when it's done. I guess I do have a little bit of a question. The Scott that you're referring to is an employee of Stearns County.
Yes.
We're actually contracting, if you will, with Stearns County, not with Scott individually.
Yes.
When we say Scott and his team, it's Scott, an employee of Stearns County, and his team, employees of Stearns County.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
And if I may, one more thing, again, the one that Commissioner Wilson is really, that party got it handled. They're building their house. They got it taken care of amongst themselves. We also had one north of us here where there was a discrepancy on the land. And again, most of these situations, the landholders, I believe, can work them out. It's just a matter of, them working together, So I don't know, again, what this will provide for us, so.
I'm not sure either. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Two questions, if I may.
Absolutely.
First, just to get up to speed here on this, and I followed this a little bit in the past, but so the contracted surveyor from Stearns County, does he, in looking through the memorandum of understanding here, is there a specified goal that he is directed to? In other words, at the end of the day, we want to find a legitimate point out there?
Good question. What David and Scott explained is to have somebody acting in the county's behalf to take a look at what's out there and see if anybody's missing anything, see if there's something else that makes sense. Just looking at it from that surveying perspective that we don't have right now. Again, I don't know how to advise you anymore to go forward, yet people and constituents out there, given the situation, continue to have issues. I know the financial institution that has a number of mortgages in this area is very concerned because they're looking at it going, what is the ultimate resolve going to be? Because we hold a lot of debt out there that now is in question if they want to sell that, or as they're looking at exchanging properties and things like that. This isn't going to go away. So in order to have any more intelligent conversations, I can't explain that situation. As Commissioner Wincher said, what that gets us, it's really a resource for staff and sometimes for those constituents to be able to talk to answer those questions. What does this mean? I have a hard time answering that. I've dabbled into that and spent hours and hours trying to answer that, and I think I've learned a little, but I'm not that professional to be able to have that knowledge base to answer what that means. And so, again, the end goal is to advise us on how to move forward and to work with the public to explain the options and explain what those options exist of and what that means to them.
Okay, thank you. Question 2. The property owners involved in this, or that are affected by this, have they been notified of this procedure, and they understand that with passage of this action today, that this will take place in that area then?
Yes, I sent them a letter a few weeks ago. When was that? A month ago, maybe. Identifying that this is the follow-up. This is the next step that we're doing. We're engaging, hope to engage Stearns County to help move us along with that process. We had a public meeting last fall talking about what's going on, and because people were questioning what's happening. We had David Myers at the table at that point in time giving a presentation about what options exist. We did a survey with the property owners. There are 5 different sections that are most impacted by the location of these corners, or pulled their legals from this location. And so we invited those. We had a good turnout. It was a nice showing. We had a survey about options moving forward, and it was quite inconclusive. Some are saying, yes, we need something done. If you can help us as a county, that would be great. If you can kind of assist in this process, that would be great. Some are saying, no, we don't want you to. This is our own deal. I don't have a problem right now. And a lot of people don't. If you're not actively engaged in transferring property, it can sit and not be too much of an issue. I can tell you that the bank now is aware of it, and so they're having some concerns and would like to address it in some form or fashion. And with that inconclusive response, it's one of those things that, to engage fully in a boundary commission, which is a process that would, I kind of solve the issue long term. It's almost like platting of property in a non-city. You can do a boundary commission. It's platting of property. It's defining those boundaries so you don't have a meets and bounds description anymore. You have a plat. You have a lot. That process, though, is quite involved, and there's different things that come with that, like a cost to property owners and things of that nature. To be able to talk with property owners, to be able to determine if that's where we should go, if that's where they want to go, that professional component of a surveyor needs to be involved in that. So it's kind of to help look at this process, to help learn more about it, to help educate. It was the first time that meeting we had, it was the first time many of these people heard of that issue, that there was something out there. It won't be the last time if they ever want to do something with their property, because this is an issue that's out there that won't ever go away for them. So it's kind of helping all of us learn more about what's out there and what it impacts and what potential in the future it's going to have on people and their properties.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, okay. Very much. Thank you.
And through it all, my intent is that I hope to find that there's going to be a conclusion here, because if every time someone in that vicinity is going to sell property, that we're going to be expected as a county board to go through all this each and every time, that's a cost that I'm not willing to jump up and down and say, yeah, pick me. I'm truly looking for a conclusion, so to speak, at the end of the day. And I'm hopeful that, Scott, Stearns County staff will be able to lead us in that direction to find a conclusion. That's my opinion.
And Mr. Chair, there are property disputes elsewhere that exist. Yes. There are section corner disputes elsewhere that exist. We're not going to be, it isn't always the answer to look to the county to deploy resources to help solve those. But we need that advice. We need that recommendation from somebody who understands this business. That's what I'm struggling with, is that I don't have somebody to go to right now to help determine what it is that we should be doing or shouldn't be doing, or what it means to constituents. Is that kind of where I'm at?
Good discussion. Further questions, comments, concerns?
The only difference here between this one and some other ones, most of the time, we understand that the property lines are maybe 3 to 5 feet apart, and the points where this one's 600 feet. That's why this one's been brought to our attention, and it affects a lot of people out in that area, so. But I agree with Jeff. I hope that, my goal is to get a conclusion on a point where people can start going off of and getting the property corrected. So, thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Do we have a motion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
That motion passes.
All right, thank you.
And?
How would you like to, do you want me to finish my report?
No,
or
you
would
just
like to-
continue.
Okay.
You guys have to wait.
After I called Mr. Bukowski over to quick come running. Last meeting that we had, we closed at the end for a number of reasons. One of those was my annual performance evaluation, and doing so prompts me this meeting now to recap that. The law requires that. And so on an annual basis, I look to you and to my, what I'd consider peers in the organization, to take a look at how I'm doing my job, and if there are improvements that could be made, things that are going well. And so I appreciate your feedback in that. I think it went well. I'm here at the next meeting, so I think that's a good sign.
Pretty good.
But anyway, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy working for the board and the folks at the county. And so I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you, your communication and honesty with that. And so thank you. And we always can improve, and I hope that we continue to do so moving forward. So,
Gentlemen, I look for a motion.
there isn't actually action item for that.
Excuse me.
But
It says there is an action item.
it does say there is action item, but we don't need it. It's just a recap. So thank you. Sorry. And then, Mr. Chair, I think maybe I would recommend that we look at the commissioner committee appointments at the end when we do schedules, maybe. Okay.
I think so. That would be good. And then I think that's all that you have, correct? Or no, you have talking about the renovation project.
That will be later, too.
Later,
Sorry.
too?
Yep.
And everything else. All right. So then let's get back on schedule. And let me see. Extension? Extension is here.
You guys are ahead?
Yes.
Yes, we actually are way ahead.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm a familiar face to most of you, but I brought Randy with as well. So Extension is doing its great things. Hopefully you guys had the opportunity to read the report and enjoying that fruit. If you guys got from 4-H, I know I'm enjoying some of it that I purchased. But I'm going to turn it over to Randy and let him introduce himself for those of you who don't know him.
Well, thank you. I know some of you, others not as well, but I've been around in agriculture in the area for quite a few years. I've been in Extension for 11 years, first 5.5 years in Todd County, and now the last 5.5 years I was working on several grant projects revolving around manure, nutrient management, issues like that. So that's where it is. There's a gap in here with the grant, and then, of course, as you know, Dan Martin's retired. Dan Martin's has done a phenomenal job, I think, through the years. He's not only been a colleague of mine, but a good friend, and he's done a great job. But anyway, he's decided to take retirement, and as some of you know, you're on the committee, you're in the process of opening up the position for interviews and that whole process. So anyway, I'm in the meantime here, working on carrying out some of the good work that Dan has done. Getting right now is busy time. In the springtime, he always worked with scissor cut work, and so taking that and getting it so I can get my head around it, which I am, and we'll get that going. We got the hay auction results going, and a number of other things. I have another meeting in Benton County later today with the soil and water. And I've been here with the soil and water, and just a number of things that are happening with the 3 counties. It's a busy time. I enjoy it, and good to be here. So any questions about anything, or?
So welcome, Randy.
Well, thanks, Mike.
And Randy, really what you're doing right now, correct me if I'm wrong, you're replacing Dan in the interim, correct?
Yes, yeah, there's two positions, of course, in agriculture. Emily, which is in the livestock side, and then Dan was always in the crop side. So this is, let's call it interim position to fill in until a permanent person is in this crop side.
Sure, very good.
And then just one last note on my end, our intern is going to be starting May 21st, so I'm not sure who's on the cycle next month for extension, if it's 4-H or SNAP, but we will be adding Eric Colmuse. He's from K-State, so Kansas State, and he'll be moving up into the area for the summer. So we'll have another face for a little while with extension.
So another multi-purpose person. We've had such success with our interns in the past. I'm assuming we're going to have more success.
Yes, we're excited to have him. He'll be partnered with Todd County as well, because we were able to get that funding through the NJPA. Did I say that right? And so Eric's going to bring all sorts of expertise, and we're excited to have him jump on board. Like I said, May 21st will be his first day, so if any of you are around, you can certainly pop down into the extension office to meet him. The girls are saying, what's up with all these guys now? So. But thank you guys very much for continuing to support extension.
Sure.
We hope we do good work in our community.
Questions, comments, concerns, anything for our friends at Extension?
All right.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
Thank
Randy.
you
Thank
very,
you.
very much. And Mr. Bukowski, I think you get to be next. It's not often that we're that far ahead of Steve.
I know.
It's got to be the new commissioner.
It's got to be the new commissioner. Has to have something to do with this.
I'll take that.
He said, Greg's saying, yes, finally. Oh, thank you.
Morning, Steve.
Hello, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that.
Okay, here we go.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there are two resolutions that are included in what I handed out for your consideration today. The first being our annual maintenance for our pavement markings. It's updating striping on our county and county-stated highways. We do about 80 miles of our system annually, and we solicited proposals and received 2 bids. And those, the abstract of those 2 proposals are in your packet. It did come in a little bit higher than we had estimated. That is tending to be that paint and some of the material prices have gone up, but it still falls within the budgeted constraints of what we had anticipated this item to cost us for this year. And so we are recommending to the board that you would adopt the resolution that's included and award this contract to AAA Striping Service Company in the amount shown.
Gentlemen, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, on the last page of what was handed out, I have a county map showing a number of project locations in which, again, we had included in our transportation improvement plan for 2018. We are kind of up in the Cushing area. We have a township bridge project in which we have an agreement with Cushing Township to conduct a turnkey project and replace a deficient and obsolete structure on Agate Trail. We also then, in the eastern part of the county, down on our County 245, this will be one of the last projects that we will be funding with wheelage tax, again, which we will be replacing a obsolete and deteriorated structure on County Road 245. We also then, on our number 8, between County State 839 and Trunk Highway 27, be replacing all the deficient centerline structures as a county state aid project. We solicited proposals and received a number of bids that are listed in the abstract with all the items that we have included on all these projects. We received 6 proposals, and the overall low proposal was Marvin Treader, coming in at $785,234.80, which was a little over 6% from the engineer's estimate. This is one of the major projects for us this year. One of the reasons why the abstract is coming in behind, we call it behind, is because we were having some difficulty with our permit with the Corps of Engineers. We did get notice last Friday that we received the final complete permit, and so we're ready to move forward with this project. Our recommendation and request to the board is that you would award this project to the apparent low bidder, Marvin Treader Incorporated, for the amount shown.
I'll make a motion on that.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Gentlemen, this is roll call. Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
Lemire?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Blaine?
Aye.
And myself is an aye vote. That motion passes.
And Mr. Chair, if we could, that last awarding of contract should have been a roll call vote too. And so there was a motion by
mistake.
Commissioner Blaine and a second by Commissioner Lemire. If you could redo that with a roll call,
And we need to do that. We do not need to go through the motion process, but we need to go through the aye process. Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Lemire?
Aye.
Wincher?
Aye.
And myself is an aye vote. That motion does pass. Thank you, gentlemen. My parliamentary procedure was off again. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last item is I would request if we could set up a public works planning meeting. I would like to see something towards the end of May. I think we would have a number of issues that we'd want to discuss with the board towards the end of May or early June, if that would work with the board.
28th.
You like Fridays usually, Steve?
28th. Mr.
28th is Memorial Day. I
Yes.
don't think we can
make
do that one.
4th. You know, we've been doing Mondays, it seems
Mondays?
like.
4th of June is open for me.
4th of June at 8:30. Would that work for everybody?
Works for me.
It appears to work for everyone.
4th of June.
4th of June at 8:30 in the morning.
Sounds good.
All right, let's do 8:30. 4th of June, planning meeting, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you very
Any
kindly,
questions of
Steve.
me?
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
That'll be here before you know it.
Yeah.
Bring the mail.
Should be. Yep.
And now, we do have a new commissioner on board. And again, welcome Commissioner Blaine. We need to do some committee assignments. So, exactly sure.
Mr. Chair.
Finger
All
again
right.
at Ms. Gruber. Let's take it from the top.
I get the finger pointed at me a lot. Mr. Chair, the list currently was handed out and it was in the board packet. And so if I could just explain kind of what we had. The red writing is what has been temporarily assigned to the 4 of you in the absence of District 5 Commissioner. And so those were kind of, at the time, temporary assignments. So what we would like is to be able to kind of figure out and shake it out now that Commissioner Blaine is on board, how you want to move forward with that. And we can notify then those agencies or entities that run those committees on who, what likely and hopefully will be a little more long-term assignments. Of course, these can always change if something doesn't work. You can always readdress that. You just need to let me know if you ever want to do that. So I guess I kind of would assume we'd want to start going through what the District 5 had been historically assigned, and then you guys tell us if and how you want to work that out. Does that seem like a reasonable place to start?
I think so.
All right. So if we start with the Morrison, you're all on the Community Health Board. That's an assignment that goes with, I think, every commissioner on that. The Mississippi Headwaters Board was something that was historically District 5, but has temporarily moved to, who is it? Mike Wilson?
Just a second, Deb, question for you.
Yes.
The Morrison-Todd-Wadena County Health Board, that's where Dwayne and I sat on.
They had an executive committee,
Okay.
and then the full board is all of the commissioners from the 3 counties, all 5 from each county.
And they meet once a year.
Yep.
The executive board is a different one on here?
Yes, the executive, I believe so.
I don't see.
Well, didn't they take away the executive committee? I think that's what it happened, is that they decided not to meet with the executive committee, but call and not have an executive committee? Does that sound familiar?
No.
No.
Well, I go there every month.
Oh.
We meet the Tri-County, and Dwayne was on there, and I was on there, but I think that Dwayne was on there from some other aspect.
That was community development, rural finance, I believe.
Well, no, that's another one.
That's another one. There were 2.
Was he on there because of Region 5, or?
That's what I was
Region
wondering.
5, I think Dwayne was on
That's what
there
I was
because of
wondering,
Region
because of
5.
Region 5.
He was appointed to that.
Yeah.
We will clarify that with Brad, because I thought Tabitha and I are both recalling that I thought was supposed to be different, but we could be very easily wrong on that, so.
Well, I do sit on that one, but it is the Tri-County one. But I think, and Dwayne was on there, but I think Dwayne was on there appointed by Region 5. That's why Dwayne was there.
I think that's just like community development. He was not there was it Region 5, or?
You know what, maybe what I'm thinking of is the exec committee is now what's the Morrison Todd Wadena Community Health Board as its whole, and they don't convene, do they not convene the full 5 commissioners on a?
Once a
5 is
year.
once a year.
Once a year only, okay.
Is the 5. I meet there every month, and Dwayne was always there, so I thought it was
Yep, and you
both of us.
only-
But Dwayne is there, I think, from Region 5.
Yes, I believe that's
And I
correct.
think that's right. So Greg would not have to be on that one at this time.
Okay, we'll find clarification on that just to make sure we're on the same page, because we're
Okay.
obviously understanding it differently based on what they told us. So I will
think,
clarify.
Ms. Gruber, if we take a look at Commissioner Wilson's list and anyone else's, Morrison Wadena Todd is at the top of the list. I don't know if it is on everybody else's.
But that's
not.
the annual one. That's
what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that's why I'm curious as to maybe their names. I know they were not messing around, they were changing that. And so I'm not certain if we just have the wrong names or if that was understood differently, so.
okay.
Mississippi Headwaters Board, how about that?
I sat on there since Dwayne was gone, but I would recommend that Greg take that back. And I'm the alternate. South Country and Mississippi Headwaters, I was the alternate for both of those. So my recommendation, if Mr. Blaine can take these, is to take both of those back, and I would stay as alternate on those, so that if he can't make it, I can. And I'm familiar with both, so.
And I'm fine with that.
Region 5 Development Commission, that's what you were just referring to. No, you sat on that, no?
No. What about community development is next, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh, yes, sorry, I skipped one. Community Development Board. Who was on that?
I'm on the Community Development Board, but I also think that Dwayne was on there maybe from something else.
From the Rural Finance Authority, that one was
Yes. And so Greg really wouldn't be on there then now, I don't think, because the Rural Finance would appoint somebody else to that board, I think.
Is there a second for community development? Is there,
But
an
you're an
alternate?
ex officio too on community development, right? You don't vote on that.
No, I don't vote.
Oh,
Say,
okay.
so that's,
But doesn't Rural Development appoint somebody then to Community Development?
I believe that's the case.
But then,
And I believe that's why Commissioner,
well, Randy was
I'm on
appointed.
on rural development, not on community. They're
Yeah,
two different
yeah,
ones. see?
Yep.
would you attend the Community Development?
Nope, I just tried the rural development ones.
Okay.
So the
The
community
Rural
development,
Development Finance Authority.
community development, that's you sit on there as an ex officio just to report like they do with soil and water and that sort. It's not a Well, you're not.
Official seat.
Right. I can't vote there, but I think that Dwayne was there from something
But
else.
I think he was there from.
The Rural Finance Authority.
No, I don't think he was on that, was he? Was he on real? Yeah, maybe, you're right. Yes,
Okay.
he was. Yep. Yeah, he was on real finance, so then, yeah. So community development.
Get rid of that then.
Well, I'm on community development.
But again, but you took that because of the fact, that's right, you became the ex officio, you're right.
Yes.
Did Rural Finance Committee appoint somebody else to sit on community development? They're waiting for this to be filled?
Well, there is no rural.
Yeah, there's a real development, that's the finance. Because I'm taking over Dwayne's right now. Well, you sit on there too, but on real development, then I can vote. But I don't know, they never even discussed it about it, because I really, technically was never appointed to take that over, or was I?
I think you were appointed by this board, so on RDFA.
Okay.
Temporarily, that was an assignment for that. Do you want to continue with that, or do you want to?
I enjoy it, but again, if Commissioner Blaine would like to take it over, I'm happy, that's fine too. They meet about once every 4 or 5 months.
And it's about a half hour.
Yeah.
What's that?
Real
development. Real development.
It's down towards the bottom of the list.
And I think that seat taking that Commissioner Blaine would be then
Because it's community development, real development.
assumed or possible that you would then be an appointed or a representative on the
Community
Development Board. So I know that's something you might have interest in, if I recall.
And I believe you may be correct in how you stated that too, and after the election, but before this morning, Carol Anderson had reached out to me and was inquiring to me about that, and then also briefing me on some of the other things that we talked about earlier this morning. But I'm fine with with either of or both of those two. But I think it appears to me there needs to be clarification maybe from that entity itself, how they want to fill that.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, we should probably let them know the times too, Commissioner Blaine, because rural development, or community development meets about noon, right? Or
12:15, that's what it says here, yeah.
So, and then usually the rural development meets around 4.
Yep, 4 to 4:30.
So those are just, give you some times.
Yeah, and the Rural Development Finance Authority, what I was led to believe only met maybe 3 to 4 times a year.
As needed.
Yeah.
As needed.
Yep.
But if, certainly in respect to you, Commissioner Wincher, if that's something that you have great desires on,
No, but again, I think we need to clarify this, because with community development, I sat on there for a couple of years, and then Mike took that position, and what I sat on there with Dwayne. So I'm fine with that, but I think it needs to be a little bit more clarification on how that proceeds.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
It is, and I'm looking back at my emails from last time here. It is that Randy was temporarily assigned on the RDFA, and then that assignment on the RDFA will be on that Community Development Board spot. I am correct in that. I just went and verified that that's what I was quite certain of that. So your Morrison County Rural Development Finance Authority spot, the spot is, then there's an appointment from the Morrison County Rural Development Finance Committee to Community Development Board. So it's not exactly like you as a board appoint somebody to the Community Development Board, but for all intent and purposes, this identifies where you guys are at and what you're doing. So you're not the authority that appoints that. It's the Morrison County Rural Finance Development Authority, but we're just listing it as kind of just so you know which committees you're on, but it's not your authority that appoints it. Does that make sense? That's where the confusion comes.
And because Carol never mentioned anything to me that why I wasn't attending the community development.
Well, and I think she just waited. It wasn't a requirement to have that position filled. It was okay. It sat vacant, so they were waiting for a more permanent appointment to the Morrison County Rural Development Finance Authority in order to have that then be that entity appoint the representative to the Community Development Board.
So we should clear it up. Commissioner, are you going to be on community development, or Commissioner, are you going to be on community development?
You can't.
You're going to be on both.
You have to appoint.
Well, he's
That's what
gonna
I'm
be-
looking for, 'cause-
He's going to be on the RDFA, and they will appoint
No,
somebody.
I know.
To community development, which will probably be you.
And I'm fine with that.
We just have to wait to get the
That's
work
right.
to
We'll
appoint.
list it because
Yeah.
that's kind of, this isn't the official appointing of that. It's
Right.
identifying which committees you're on, some of which you have the authority to make that appointment, some of which it's kind of by default of another action. Is that-
It's all yours,
So this list
Commissioner.
serves two purposes, is what.
You're in.
The last thing I wanted to do was to upset the apple cart, so.
It doesn't look like you really are that much.
You're not.
We'll make it.
It doesn't hurt to upset this apple.
Wow. I forgot.
Next one is Region 5, right?
The other thing.
Region 5 Development Commission.
I've been sitting on there for Dwayne, but I think Greg take that back if he wishes to.
And I'm fine with that.
Yep.
right.
And I'll stay as alternate.
Perfect.
Oh, wait a
Or
minute.
do we have that as
Nope,
alternate?
nope, there isn't an alternate for that.
I think that commission didn't necessarily need one because it's so large that
It is, you're right.
they don't appoint one.
Nope,
Okay.
totally correct. But I am staying as alternate to South Country and Mississippi
Yep.
Headwaters. Yep, okay.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yellow Ribbon Committee was typically an assignment for District 5
What?
in temporarily.
Yellow ribbon.
The Yellow Ribbon, I know.
I'm on it now?
Yes.
And I had a conversation with Greg, and
Okay.
he said he has no problem with me keeping that.
Okay.
With you keeping it or Greg
Yeah.
keeping it?
And the Citizen Committee
With Greg, I think is what the was.
with Greg. And with, they didn't want to kick me out yet anyway.
Okay, that's fine.
No, I'm sorry, Mike, you need to repeat that. I was.
I'm going to keep the Yellow Ribbon.
Okay.
And the Citizens Committee.
Okay.
And he was going to take my TCC.
But just to let you know,
Or-
the TCC has to be appointed by the board now, not by this board, by
By the other one. Okay.
TCC board.
So, Mike, let me recap, because gets very confusing. Mike Lemire will keep the Yellow Ribbon and the Camp Ripley Citizens Committee. So that will come off of District 5.
And either we have one person on TCC or...
I see Commissioner Winter, you are on the TCC
yeah.
board.
Yeah.
And so does this county board typically have two members on the TCC board?
Up to about a year and a half ago, then they changed their bylaws where now the county commissioners do not, normally we used to help, it was like not like a joint powers, but on that same side where now we really have no skin in the game with TCC other as a representative. So moving forward, if somebody wants to be put on TCC, now that becomes a board action. You meet with the administrator there. I mean, it's more of a process rather than saying the county board appoints.
I would recommend that we
you know,
just
see-
go to one then. All right?
I
Is that
mean,
what you're saying?
you could do that because they just need one person, a public sector from Morrison County at this time. See, that's where I come in.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to if you don't want to on that one.
I'm big on eliminating duplication, and there's no reason for both you and I to sit in the same
And I agree.
sit in the same meeting. And I would respectfully, let you
Fair and
continue
yep.
your leadership on that. So.
They love him there.
That's another one of those where it's listed here as it's not authority that appoints it, but okay.
Right.
All right.
So we're going to get rid of that one.
Yes.
Extra one.
Well, you just have to put your resignation in.
Okay.
Community Corrections Advisory Board. Randy was sitting on that temporarily. I don't know that we had a meeting while you were temporarily sitting on that. It's a infrequent collection of
And Commissioner
folks.
Blaine, it can be, take that one. I have no idea, so you can have that one.
You never went to a meeting
Never went to a
anyway.
meeting.
DOC requires an advisory board with community corrections in order to be able to receive the community corrections aid dollars. And so that board, or advisory board, I sit on it too, convenes from just some county jurisdiction folks, some courts, different law enforcement and such. So if you're willing, Commissioner Blaine, we'll keep your name, or we'll put your name on that.
That would be fine. That would be fine. Had a fantastic conversation with Ms. Kern about their work there. I would look forward to being a part of that.
Perfect.
Was I on that one? Was I on that one too? It doesn't show that I was, but I was on the one when we were together with Crowing and that.
Yep, and then it got changed and we didn't have as many representatives that were necessary from that, so.
Maybe you wanted it.
Similar drug court steering committee, that's something that I don't know when the last time we met was. It's a committee that I think needs to, at some point, meet regarding funding that comes from the state. But if you're willing on that, you'd be notified. It's infrequent. It'd be something to add to.
That's fine.
AMC policy committees, those are identified through the Association of Minnesota Counties as different policy areas to help develop their platform for legislative efforts. There's general government, health and human services, transportation,
Public safety.
Natural resources are the different focus areas that they have that they clump their platforms in. So there's different district meetings. Sometimes we'll have focus on those, but typically the legislative platform development happens at a fall conference that's there. And so you kind of just learn a little bit more about those specific areas.
They meet twice a year, spring and fall.
Oh, spring one also?
Those committees, yeah, they do.
Okay.
It's no gigantic thing. It's involvement. It's
Am I
stuff that-
correct, though, that we all go to those conventions or whatever, and then at that convention is when we break up and everybody goes to their own meeting?
Conference, yes.
So it's part of like AMC's annual convention. And so as I peruse through the committee's breakdown schedule or whatever, then the assumption is that every one of us as commissioners takes one of those 5
in AMC.
In AMC,
yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And those meetings, I've attended them spring and fall on the Public Safety Committee, so I'm anticipating everybody attends them spring and fall.
Some choose to be
If
more
you
involved
can.
than others. It's totally up to you
absolutely.
as a commissioner. They call for, and this is a statewide organization, so some of the areas are larger than others, depending upon the commissioner interests in the different focus areas. They're staffed by lobbyists at AMC. Commissioner Jelinski, you're a vice chair for the Public Safety Committee because he is more involved in that and helps lead that group and kind of convene that group and work with those lobbyists a bit more. You can play that by ear as time goes and you learn more about that on how involved you want to be with AMC in that area.
Yeah.
And if I may, there's, what is it, environmental, general, health, what was the?
Public safety?
Yep.
Oh, there's one that I'm trying to think that's.
Transportation.
Transportation.
There it is, yeah.
Yeah, and I, in looking through this, I assume that with some of the other committee structure that Commissioner Johnson had dealing with South Country Alliance, the Tri-County Health Alliance, that was probably why he had that health services on the AMC level, whatever. It makes sense. And I'm fine with that. That's where I was going with it.
Okay.
I was going to say that's because
All right. And then I think we determined the Rural Finance Authority and then also the alternate for the EMS Regulatory Board. Has that made any changes, Commissioner Jelinski?
The EMS Regulatory Board has really not. I guess I don't even see it here.
He's an alternate. I think you are the main attendee and you typically go. If you weren't able to go, then we'd have Commissioner Blaine go, but you'd need to notify him.
And I chair that one, so
Okay.
it's I don't know that anybody heard that, but.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
I'll check in a second. What's that?
The EMS Regulatory Board, you'd be an alternate on that. I chair that committee.
Okay.
doesn't happen very often that you'll need to go to that.
Okay.
This is the one where.
So going back, just for quick clarification, and I apologize, I wasn't paying attention here a second, but so we'll wait for correspondence. I'm looking at you, Tabitha, and Deb, that in the sense that we'll wait for correspondence from community development on that seat and on the Rural Development Finance Authority?
The Morrison County Rural Development Finance Authority has been identified that you will sit on that.
Okay, so we have the ability to place on that board.
The action of you being the Morrison County Rural Development Authority representative on community development technically needs to happen at Rural Development Finance Authority. Okay. Leaving it listed doesn't do any harm here, but if that changes, let me know. Because again, this is more of a informational sheet in addition to it serves as both, kind of an informational where you're at in terms of where you're serving, and also some of these we appoint as a board.
I would think that he would be appointed because Greg Zilka, he's on there, and he's also on community development, and I'm there, and I'm on community development. So it's only between you and one other person that would go choose that seat. Okay. So I do have a question, though. On South Country Health Alliance, it says the fourth Thursday here. Now, I don't know if that's got changed. My meetings have been the first Thursday of the month. So I think that's when it is the first Thursday, but.
I have that on the calendar appointment, and that I do believe they used to be the fourth Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah. And part of this, this seems kind of confusing, Commissioner Blaine, and it is because we're not staffing these or we're not scheduling a lot of these. So once you're appointed and once you're serving, they communicate directly with you, these organizations do. And we're not in that loop sometimes, so we do our best to keep up on that. But we aren't always copied on whether the meetings changed or what's happening with those, and how, like what Commissioner Wincher said, like the change in TCC and their bylaws and board makeup isn't something that came to this organization as a change. It was them doing that, and then that's since changed from there. So I apologize for the confusion on that. We're learning as we go sometimes.
Yeah, and thank you, and I am too. And my biggest concern is if this becomes my responsibility to be at this board, then I need to be there. I just want to make sure that in this transition now into this, that we have pertinent communication to make sure that I know when they're meeting, where they're meeting, and to make then it's up to me to make sure I'm there.
And what we will do is reach out to the folks that are part of this organization and say, please include Commissioner Blaine in communication, because he will serve as the alternative South Country Health Alliance Board and the Morrison County Rural Finance Development Board representative and such. So
I will be the alternate on South Country.
No,
you will still be the. No.
I'm the alternate.
Okay.
You will be the regular. Sorry, said that backwards.
Yeah. I'm just clarifying.
Also, the next meeting for South Country is coming up on the 5th, and I will probably go down there with Greg to introduce, because we go down Wednesday night, then they start, there's an early one, and it's in a different place, so I will go with him, and I'll also get him with the Mississippi Headwaters and Region 5 so that he gets introduced. He's there, he's got it, then it's up to him.
And some of these appointments and some of these committees I know have kind of spin-off committees or different types of service that they ask that board to sit on. I know with South Country Health Alliance, I believe Dwayne was part of some compliance committee or something. So there may be additional things that occur with that. But this is kind of, like I said, an encompassing list that allows us to, it identifies where you are authorized by your peers to go in, things like mileage expense, reimbursement, things of that nature. So that's how this all ties together when we're auditing and doing our records in that regard. So.
Okay. Yep. I understand. I think a lot of times the public doesn't understand the level of involvement that the people that sit at this table have outside of Tuesday morning. And so, not that I need to draw attention to that, but we understand that. And like I said, this will just be the logistics of getting this. And once I get 30 days behind this, I think we'll have everything plugged in where we need to be, and it'll be seamless.
The other question I have, Deb, is still the health board.
Yep.
With the Tri-County. We meet the second Wednesday of the month. And that's the one that I am on, and Dwayne was always on that one. So this is their annual meeting, the one that you have in here. That's the one that the 5 commissioners meet.
Yep, and I see, again, this is kind of a tool that we use, but I think they changed the name from it being the exec committee to calling that the board, but we still have the Community Health Services Board of Health listed on the all commissioners list in the front page, and then both District 5 and you, Mike, District 4 listed as the Morrison Todd Wadena Community Health Board also. So I'm recalling some type of name change is what I'm recalling, but I don't know specific.
Okay, but he may not sit on that one, is that what you're saying?
I am thinking that we should have him sit on that if you are okay to take that seat, because there are 2 listed on the Morrison County Todd Wadena Commissioner Health Board.
There's 2 of us sitting on that.
Community Health Board. Yes, there are 2
okay,
sitting on
okay.
that. And it listed a little differently with a different name on the all commissioners list. And so my guess is that yes.
Could I get another clarification?
Well, maybe. I didn't do a good job on that
no,
one.
you
so
did
we'll
good.
see.
You did good. But South Country, Mississippi Headwaters, and Region 5, they pay mileage,
question.
and they pay per diems.
Yes.
What I've been doing now, because Dwayne did that, per diems all come to the county.
Yes.
Mileage, if they send you a check for mileage, then you don't put down mileage on your mileage check.
Yes, you can.
Because they will all ask you that.
Yes, you get reimbursed, or you can get reimbursed directly from those organizations that reimburse mileage. And that's, well, I think the better route to go, because then it's their organization is funded and takes that into account when they're funded, and then receive the mileage from them if you can directly to yourself, but then obviously don't put that on your mileage sheet for the county.
And we don't do per diems.
Yeah,
And you can probably sit down with Deb.
Yes.
and going back to what I was saying before in this first month, so I'll probably ask either you, Mr. Board Chair, or Deb, or both, to review any type of compensation form or whatever that I've got to turn in to make sure that something's not listed on there incorrectly, and in the interim, I'll plead ignorance on the procedure with that, but we'll figure that out as we go along. Good thing is, and I'm grateful to Commissioner Wilson willing to go with me on the first round on these 3 more critical monthly meetings, and we can talk about that too, and he can maybe etch that into me on how to handle that part of the paperwork.
I haven't gone over that with you yet, so we will get there.
and I'm not worried.
Okay.
I'm not worried a bit. The other, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, because of the discussion about this and the notation I'm making on here, but on the MTW Community Health Board on here, if I am to sit on that board, and I'm assuming that meets monthly, it's not listed on here when that meeting is.
It is the second Wednesday at 3 o'clock. till 4:30.
And where's that held at, Mike?
It's held at NJPA in Staples, and they're scheduled every month, but it seems like they cancel it's about every other month. But
3 to 4:30.
That sounds like the extension where you and I,
out of there by 5, so.
but then we had
Staples.
the annual meeting once you were
Okay.
all in the
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what it is.
So maybe we could get a revised sheet or something
yeah.
like
We'll
that.
get a clean sheet.
If I was just kind of explaining to the chair, I think the Morrison Todd Wadena is kind of like the extension. Jeff and I sit on that, but then there's an annual meeting once a year where all the county boards
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's the same kind of principle.
Right, yeah.
But you would want that on his.
Yes, we would.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they just changed the name is what's throwing me for a loop.
Okay. Do we have anything further on appointments?
I
We'll talk.
don't believe so.
Commissioner Blaine, board, do we have anything further that we want to discuss on appointments?
I have one. Is there any, maybe Commissioner Blaine, is there any boards that he would think that he would like to sit on? I guess that could be brought up, because we added someone we became.
Absolutely.
So, not that you see here that you maybe want to be involved with, other than what you have here.
I'm just going to give an example. Doesn't exist. The Creamery Association. Do you think that the board should have a presence on the Creamery Association, the widget makers, whatever? I'm just making that up.
Yeah, at this point in time, I don't have any designs that way. I guess I'll use. My thought has always been going in here to utilize the rest of my responsibility is filling out this term to build a greater understanding of commissioner responsibilities and that, and without, I'm not coming in here with an axe to grind or designs to flip things around and implement some kind of sweeping changes. There'll be time down the road where we can have communications on thoughts about being in other places or in other communications. But I think at this time, this is a pretty significant plate of responsibilities, and I want to make sure that I do the best I can to represent this board on those commissions and represent the people of the county to the best of my ability in that role. So at this time, no.
Excellent. So we have completed that task. We have one more agenda item that I think we should get to.
Mr. Pete Philippi is here to give you
There
guys an
he
update
is.
on the building.
Pete, if you want to take a chair, if you want to do it there, whatever's good for you.
This worked for me.
Excellent.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Pete. How are you?
Doing wonderful.
Good.
Give Tyler one by chance.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, got one.
Just be getting the schedule.
How you doing?
Good, congratulations.
Good to see. Thanks.
See you.
I have to approve this. We're already in it.
Just going to give you a quick 5-minute update on the project as a whole. As you know, we're going to be scheduled here once a month just to kind of give you an overall look at the project. The document I handed out is kind of our monthly budget update, which is current as of the last pay cycle. Typically what I do when I present to a board, kind of just give a rundown. Don't spend a whole lot of time up on top of it with the actual trade contractors. Two things I normally key on is one, the contingency amount, which is right below the trade contractor total. Like I said, we started the project off with about $500,000 in contingency. If you remember, we were south of $2 million on our original estimate, so that was welcome news. At the same time, we have issued about $103,000 in change orders currently. As everybody knows, we started off in the 70s building, which is one of your older buildings, and ran into a little bit of some mechanical issues, some of the piping underground and things of that nature, along with the generator. I believe my brother Mike and John were at the last board meeting presenting. So hopefully we're over the major hurdles on that part of the project. At the same time, general conditions, like I said, we just started the project here a few months back, so that hasn't been tapped into a whole lot. With that, I can open up any questions anybody may have on the budget.
Just for Greg's thing, the $100,000, we had a generator that was about $60,000, right, that was overlooked?
Yes, that, and we replaced all the underground plumbing. If you remember, just before this thing went out to bid, John Erdrich, facilities manager, had quite an issue with a lot of the cast iron piping in the building. They were running snakes trying to get steamers out. Well, when we opened the lower level plumbing up, we noticed a lot of the pipes were corroded down. So a 4-inch pipe probably had a 2-inch hole in the middle of it. The rest of it was all full of crud. And one of the main goals of this project is to make sure at the end of the day you have a building that functions. So we went ahead and tore all the underground plumbing up in that lower level, put all new piping in, so we know that the county is going to be well served moving on down the line. So those are most of the things that we're coming across that we're addressing, something that's very practical and functional to the mechanical and electrical systems of the building.
Mr. Chair, the data room is also, I think, in this, or is that not part
Yes,
of your
the data room's already accounted for as well. Your
was a major
IT department needed another data room over in the 1960s, which is current public health building. So we established another data room, which will provide connectivity for that building for now and in the future as well. So
That was a slightly larger dollar amount. I'm not coming up with it offhand, but it was to make sure that it could have functioned and fit if it was ran to the 70s building, but probably not with the service level that we'd want given the activity that'll be there, and so we wanted to do it right. And so that was a change that we presented and you approved.
Hey, wasn't there an asbestos issue that we really didn't plan on also? Imagine that, but...
It got us a little bit later start. I need to account for the full asbestos now that some of those bills are in. If you're aware, that was a third-party consultant through EnviroSafe. They took care of all those bid documents. Same thing as you start to open ceilings and things of that nature. Above all the walls in the 70s building had a lead sheeting above all the top of the partitions. It isn't so much that the lead sheeting that needed to be abated as well. It was more for a sound transfer they used back in the time. The adhesive had an asbestos content in it. So that's the other part we're tackling at the same token is moving forward, the asbestos is clean. Yep.
And if I may, maybe Deb can help Commissioner Blaine out. The contingency fund, it's not like you guys have open checkbook, if you could kind of explain.
I am authorized to approve change orders, I think up to 15,000, 10 to 15,000, and then anything larger than that, if it's a bigger issue, comes to you as a board to do, just in order to keep the project moving forward. The overall estimate that we had on the project at the outset was what again, Pete? And then our bids.
$12,672,000.
$12,672,000, and the bids came in favorable in that regard when we had that. So that was a good result on it. And so as things come up, as we see them, we'll have to talk more about that as the project continues. But it's going well so far.
Ahead of schedule.
What's that?
Ahead of schedule.
Yeah, well, we're about right on. Okay. This first phase, Commissioner Blaine, shows us to be wrapped up somewhere in August. It's a multi-phase project due to the fact that we're keeping the county entirely occupied during the course of construction. And currently right now where the status of that project is for most part all the drywall steel studs are up. We're starting the drywall. The second floor, I think we'll be able to start bringing a taper in next week, which then at that case puts us starting in the finishing stages of already a floor. So it's a few weeks away yet, but it won't be long and we'll start that finishing process of the 70s building. At the same time, I'd like to open an invitation to you. If it works, I could give you a tour at your convenience down the line just to kind of bring you up to speed of what we're doing overall with the project, where the current budget actually sits in relationship to the work that's already completed, and just kind of give you an overview of why we're doing what we're doing.
I'd appreciate that immensely. I'll look forward to getting something scheduled with you, Pete. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you. Outside of that, that's just a short little blurb on what's happening. If there's any other questions, I sure can address that.
And rumor has it Friday's the best time to get the tours. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would work out well. Like I said, my brother Mike is on the job every day except for this week. He ended up sick, which is the first time in my life I've ever known him to miss a sick day, but he came down, believe it or not, with influenza last Friday. So I told him, I don't want you at the job, and you're going to start spreading that stuff. But yes, more than welcome to take a tour through. If you have any Friday open, if you want to just grab him or John, we can sure accommodate that.
And I say, Commissioner Jelinski, when did we go through it, a couple weeks ago, maybe?
No more than a couple weeks
And
ago.
it was very interesting how,
And now we've got sheetrock
I know,
up,
it's
so
like, wow.
I'm sure it looks completely different than, Mike took us around.
That's right, yeah.
Well, it kind of gives a general outline of kind of where the walls are going to be at now in the room and kind of how that fits itself. So
very informative.
and what was that one thing we found out about? There was that old stairways or something like that they had in the, it's like, where did this come from? They sealed it shut or something.
That stuff from years
There's
ago.
been a lot of changes.
You would have been a baby when that stuff was gone. But,
Could we explain the window situation? We're not putting, where our boardroom was, the window on the south wall.
That was a small change order that I actually didn't have to bring, but it was, they found some structural issues once they opened up the roof. And so in order to be able to put the span of windows that we had in the original bid, the existing window structure is going to stay. So there'll be the 3 or 4, I can't remember what's in that span on the would be the first level, that upper level of that middle part, will stay the way it was instead of a full span.
So we're not adding anything
We're
really?
not adding those windows like we
Okay.
had thought to open it up a bit
So
more.
we're just leaving the ones in that were there more or less, and okay,
Yep.
that sounds good.
So we didn't have to change the structure. That's
Yep.
a lot of what has been occurring is that once they open these rooms or open these areas up, there's been these structural things that they found that they didn't realize. The 70s building is the area that we had the least amount of information on. So how Mike and Pete have explained it to me is that, this is where you're going to see a lot of that, or a lot of those issues, because we didn't know what was inside of all this until we can tear into and rip into it. The 60s building has been remodeled before, and so we have better records, and the 90s building was built 20 years after that, and we have better records of that too. And so we're hoping for less issues to come up, at least by surprise. So.
What's been good, though, it seems like anything that's came up, it didn't cost us more money to speak of, because, except for the generator, but in the foundation stuff, it seems like we've done things that didn't cost us more money.
Some have had smaller price tags on it, but they're all things that make sense, because the goal of all this project, remember when we talked initially, there have been numerous goals, but one of the major one was to really set this building up for another 25 to 30 years. Again, the newest part of the building right now was built in 1990. That was a long time ago already. Time flies, but we want to set the structure up, the mechanicals up, to make sure that we have a good, solid, functional building for, that 2 to 3 decades moving forward.
So when we talk about having a computer room, or what's the term?
The data room that
The data room, that is nothing more than looking ahead and being ready for tomorrow.
In
So
addition to
why
better
would it-
serving today, but you're right,
Absolutely.
yes.
But it's looking for tomorrow and towards tomorrow, and it's part of renovation. It is.
Mr. Chair, with Peter at the podium there, I just wanted to mention something pertinent to him and his organization doing the work on this building. I spent the last 4 days, Pete, here meeting with department heads and trying to get up, for my own benefit, to get up to speed with things. But you need to hear that the overwhelmingly general consensus from employees and department heads has been extremely positive on your company's work and oversight on this project. And everybody realizes that there's a construction project going on and it affects different people in different ways, but everybody has been very positive on that. And I'm not sure if you guys hear that, but in case you didn't, I was going to make sure you did now.
Well, I sure appreciate hearing it, but that's just the fact of having a good team behind you. There's a lot of good people at the county. County Administrator Gruber was very transparent in the design process and received buy-in. I think the mission statement at the bottom of your agenda kind of says everything that we kind of went forth with, and like I said, we're just trying to continue on as being a good team member. So there's a lot of people to think that are continuing on with that help, including yours.
Part of that, Pete, is you live in the community. You're also part of the community. And that, to me, is a big piece to this whole puzzle. I truly mean that. And I do. And, you know, to piggyback off of what Commissioner Blaine just said, it's not just Morrison County. You will hear those same words from other counties throughout the state of Minnesota. It's a heck of a team that we have working for us, as far as I'm concerned.
Sure appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Anything further?
Thanks for the update, Pete.
Thanks,
Pete. We have one more item that we need to conduct for business here, gentlemen, and that is going to be committee reports, and I'd look for committee reports to go from April 29th to May 12th. And Commissioner Blaine, I am not going to put you on the spot as being first.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if we could just highlight, committee report time period is not only to give Tabitha an update on where you're going to be in the next time period so we can properly advertise that as we're required to do, but also to share if there is anything that's happening at some of the committees that you serve on that would be pertinent and relative to the rest of the board that they need to know or should know or understand to know. So it kind of serves two purposes in that regard. So we take time every meeting to identify what it is. Tabitha will, if she hasn't already, work with you on whether or not you keep your calendar electronically and if that can kind of feed into some of what we do and things of that nature. But that's what this time's used for.
So, that in mind, Commissioner Wincher, why don't you kick it off this morning?
All right. On the first, we have planning session at 8:30. And then we'll have a budget meeting after that. We have the pork chop over at Public Works on noon the same day. And then we also have the Board of Adjustments at 7 p.m. Okay, that one. TSWAC on the 4th at 8:30. We'll keep moving here. We have
TSWAC on the, yes, I'm sorry.
On the 4th, yep. Board at 9 o'clock on the 8th. And then I believe there's a department head meeting at 8:30. But again, there's going to be, we're going to be at the Little Falls High School. They call it Little Falls Day of Caring. And that's where you're going to go help people that of need. We'll be raking and all that. And that starts at 7:30 at the high school.
Did you have something further on that? I know you and I talked about that earlier.
Well, they're looking for a sidewalk superintendent, so you'd be...
Sidewalk superintendent.
Somebody that just has to sit there and tell the kids what to do.
That was what, Pete?
We might talk about that.
On the second.
And again, all you county board members are welcome to attend that, just to let you know. Okay, and that would be what that would be good for me.
Okay, Commissioner Lemire.
Did you mention budget meeting on the 1st?
Yep.
Okay. I have a public health meeting, 5 o'clock on the 2nd. We got the introduction to Blaine on the 3rd.
Oh, yeah.
At 5:30?
Yep.
You said TSWAC. We got a extension meeting with Commissioner Blaine on the 8th at 2:30 at Extension. And that's it.
Commissioner Wilson.
Okay, Commissioner Blaine and myself will be at South Country on the 3rd. And then I will be at the Health Board in Staples on the 9th.
And so would Commissioner Blaine.
Okay. Okay. Then we will both be there. And which date did we go up to?
The 12th.
Okay, that's it from what everybody else said.
And Greg, you are just, you got this stuff all listed down, so I won't ask you, or will I ask you?
Well, I'm kind of following off of Commissioner Wilson's screen here right now, but I'll pay special attention to Tabitha, who has done yeoman's work at keeping things sent to me as far as scheduling and that, and then and I'm trying to coordinate that off of this iPad and my home computer and sync it with my phone.
And I think, Commissioner Blaine, it's also an important piece that we really should talk. If there's a time that any of us want to attend another committee meeting for whatever purpose, we need to do that. That's part of the organization, if that happens.
I should say here, I know that we're on the schedule, but Commissioner Blaine will be going to Region 5 tomorrow with me, so I know where calendars are out, but he wouldn't be on that schedule for that one.
Okay.
That's right.
And then I'll take my shot at it. On the 30th, there's a fetal alcohol syndrome speaker that's going to be, I think, at the Initiative Foundation, and I really don't know that I'm going to go to that, but there's a possibility of that happening. That's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Also at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, for information, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday the 2nd, there's a Toast to the Roast at the new, the brewery north of town. It's being advertised as Starry Eye Brewery. It's being advertised as a Toast to the Roast. On the 3rd of this month, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got a Armor Legislative Committee phone conference call. That's at my house at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Second?
No, that was evidently some kind of a mistake. I erased that. I found it today. Just as another information, on the 5th and the 6th is the Two-Cylinder Club at the fairgrounds. They're having their yearly How Do You Do there. On the 8th of May at 12 o'clock, I've got Towards Zero Death at Public Health. Talked about that. We talked about on the 10th of this month, I've got a Trails meeting at 6 p.m. And as of now, I don't know if that's at Cabin Fever or if it's going to be at the Fort. I don't know the answer to that question. And on the 11th at 10 o'clock in the meeting, there's an Armor RAC meeting, and that this month would be in Mille Lacs County, and that would be all that I would have as of this time. Anything further for the goodness of the cause, gentlemen?
And I'll bring it up one more time. On Wednesday, what day was that? I'm trying to get the 9th, the rest of you board members to attend, right?
You're doing some heavy soliciting right now. Is that what we're doing? All right.
I'm doing soliciting here.
They would want us there at 7:30 in the morning. And where would they want us?
At the Little Falls High School. And again, it's I gotta find a day.
And do we stay at the Little Falls High School?
Then they're gonna put you out in different teams, and then you're gonna go help. You might have to do some raking, but what they're looking for is, my technology is sidewalk superintendents. So somebody that the high school students are out there, maybe to help them in line, point, say, hey, you missed this, you missed that. So I'll be there at 7:30 again at the high school. And if you want to get on the list for a shirt, then contact Cindy over at Public Health. So
That's on the 9th.
9th of May.
At 7:30 in the morning at the Little Falls Community High School office?
They just said Little Falls High School, so I'm sure. Bring your own rake. No, I don't know about that. But so you're all welcome to attend, and if you do want it, you want a shirt, get a hold of Cindy.
Mr. Chair, just as a side note.
No guarantees on this one.
No guarantees on that one, all right. As a side note, next week, Tuesday through Friday, I'm doing school tours for third graders. They come over at 1 o'clock. They're scheduled, I believe, all week, and so it'll look a little different this time. My regular routine, I need to figure out how to manage that because we won't have a boardroom to sit in. But we usually bring them around. We go up to courts if they're open, and one of the judges typically does a very good job of coming and speaking to the children. And then we go through the sheriff's office. They like that and see that, and we have them talk to a couple of the deputies or if Sheriff Larson's around. But then I explain just overall what we do at the county, and the judge's robe and the badges is what typically is best. But I do tell them what a county administrator does too, along with you gentlemen as a board.
And kudos to you, Deb. You do a great job with them third graders. Just just to let you know.
Yeah,
this
thanks.
year's
It's fun. It's nice to see them come over.
Absolutely.
Little Falls brings their group. Lindbergh does all of them. Sometimes some will come from Lincoln. I've had peers come over before, and Swanville too. So a lot of schools take advantage. They go through that local government chapter or social class in third grade, and so we try to do something for them when they have that going on.
All very positive. Anything else for the goodness of the cause? If not, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I would look for a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you very kindly, everyone.
We will get an updated committee list out to you based upon what we discussed to make sure we caught everything correctly.